someone lends a helping hand. A lot of people might not realize people are willing to help. You show that you are willing to put in time and effort. It's hard work. As much as you want it to be passive, it is hands-on. It is a full-time job.
From cornfields to high-rises, office to industrial, houses to hotels, and every other asset class in real estate, we cover the people, the projects, and the profit. Welcome to the Investing in Iowa show. This show is for go-doers, action takers, and business owners. It's for people like you who are sick of Uncle Sam taking a huge bite of your apple. If you're looking to get ahead of what's taking place in Iowa, learn who is doing what, and how you can get in on the action, you're in the right place. Hosted by Neil Timmins, an Iowa native who has been involved in over $300 million in real estate, right here in Iowa. Recording in studio from West Des Moines. Here's your host, Neil Timmins.
Allison Mackin here on the show. Allison, welcome.
Thank you, Neil. It's so great to be here. Thanks for having me.
I'm excited you're here. Thanks so much for the journey. And well, the audience will understand that in a moment. Who are you? Where are you from? What do you do?
Yeah, my name is Allison Mackin. I am from Solon. I did not grow up in the Iowa City area. I grew up 2 hours north, went down to school. I sell real estate in the Iowa City market, and I also invest.
You also invest. All right. So you grew up north it landed in the Iowa City area, Solon, just a few hours or maybe a little longer than that from where the two of us sit today. So I appreciate you making this journey for our conversation. How did you land there? What was school like, and how did you end up finding yourself calling that place home?
Yeah. So I grew up small town, Hawkeye, Iowa, 500 people. Went down to the university with big dreams. I was going to get out of my small town. I was going to get a degree in biology and potentially go on. I love science, love processes. Got my degree in biology from the university. I worked a little bit with that degree, did research in my undergrad, went to IDT in Coralville, and then found out that I didn't like what I was getting paid.
Yes.
I learned the hard way. Unfortunately, my now husband, where we met, he was selling shoes at Von Maur in Coralville, was making the exact same, if not more, working part-time selling shoes and getting commission that way. So I always joke around, I wasn't getting, what I wanted out of it. We had some unexpected journeys along the way. My father was diagnosed with a stomach cancer. Rare mutation, was diagnosed and passed away within 7 weeks. So it was kind of out of the blue. Was an interesting year. A number of family members had passed away. My sister-in-law had been diagnosed with colon cancer, and she passed away about a year and a half ago. So we kind of got thinking that, what we were doing was not going to work long term. We wanted to start a family. We wanted to provide for them. And what we currently were doing wasn't going to cut it. Right. So what we did was we did a bunch of research, found some different mentors, got into a little bit of learning about the stock market. Didn't really like that because we couldn't necessarily control that. Mm-hmm. There's a little more control in real estate. I come from a construction background and I guess home life. So we got into real estate investing and we've been doing it pretty since then.
What year was that?
2019, same year my father passed away. Okay. We hit the ground running. First property was a duplex. At the time, my husband, we were not married, as I was saying. And he went and bought a duplex, was his first home. So he technically house hacked.
Sure.
It was a true duplex. Renters in the basement. They've been there 17 years.
Wow.
They're great tenants. Yeah. Maybe they might not pay, right on the first, but we know what's coming. Okay. Technically 3 doors there. The garage is separate. There's a third tenant in that garage. That cash flowed immediately.
Just for clarification's sake, when you say tenant in the garage, what do you mean by that?
Yeah, so he does not live there. It's his woodworking space. Okay. Thanks for that. I always say that. I don't think about it, but
I knew if I did not ask, the audience would be like, did I get that right?
Yeah, no bedroom, no bathroom there, but he uses it as a woodworking place. We've never increased rent on him. We've increased rent one time on the tenants are in that lower unit. We financed that locally, or my husband, Peyton, financed that locally. We found that they struck through part of the loan documents because it was a true duplex. It could not be owner occupied.
Okay.
they're not owners. So he was reading through on a whim, read through the loan documents, and he said, I'm going to come live with you. So he moved in with me, and I'm renting at the time. Yeah. And I did not go on that loan or title. And that's important to know. I went ahead and found a single family home, and I myself took out that loan and went on title. Right. Again, not married.
Right. Let me back up, and then we'll come forward as to why it was important to not be on that loan. So take me back to the duplex. The documents, the loan documents indicated it could not be owner occupied. I'm going to assume that was done from a local bank. It was not done under Fannie Freddie 30-year fixed rate mortgage.
Correct.
Okay. So that's what ended up taking place there.
So that was a local bank, and they were able to loan 2 separate mortgages, one for the down payment, one for that 20% down, and one for the additional 80%.
So he ended up buying that duplex
with $1,500 closing costs. Yep. Our return on that is like 150%.
Right. Yeah. Practically infinite.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So a question is going to come up, of course. Yep. Why did they do that? How was one able to structure that?
The bank was just aggressive. They know the Iowa City market. They knew it was going to rent. It had a history of renting. It was going to cash flow immediately. They were willing to take a chance.
Was it purchased under, call it as is value, under market value?
It was right at market value. Okay. I will say we did make a mistake on that purchase. At the time we were looking, you were supposed to be looking for a 2% property, and it was a 2% property.
So elaborate on when you say 2% property, What do you mean by that?
That 2%, you want your purchase price, or your rental income to be 2% of that purchase price.
Buy a property you're saying on a monthly basis?
Yes. So if I buy a property for $100,000, you want
$2,000 in gross monthly rental income.
Correct. Okay. Correct. Our mistake on that property is we did not realize it was in a floodplain.
Until when?
Close to closing.
Until close to closing.
Yep.
You didn't realize it. It doesn't come up there. A bank's provision will be that they must complete a flood certification. And at that point, when they completed the flood certification, that's when That's when the grand reveal was.
So we found out kind of the hard way. It was that 2% property. We were able to make it work.
Because flood insurance is expensive.
Very expensive. So for the first year, we escrowed taxes and insurance. That was a stipulation with the bank.
Right.
Had to do it. We found through some research, if we were to take that out of escrow, we could drop flood insurance for a short while. And of course, the bank is going to do their due diligence and they're going to find out, which they did. Yeah. And they said, hey, you're missing flood insurance on this property. That's okay. Here's some flood insurance, some insurance providers for flood insurance. We actually currently have flood insurance for probably 50 to 60% under what we were paying on sort of that open market. So the bank went ahead and got flood insurance on the property, but they did it at such a crazy rate because they have the ends.
That's incredible. Because if you were in any normal scenario, you were just not to pay your property insurance, they'd put a forced place coverage in place that's going to be 2 to 3 times what your coverage costs. But instead, in flood insurance, the reverse is taking place.
Yeah.
That's quite interesting.
I'm not saying to do that. It just worked in our favor.
Yeah.
We were willing to take the risk on that. Now, like I said, it was a 2% property at the end of the day. When that first year was still a 1% property, it was still cash flowing. So the next property, Peyton moved in with me.
Yep. So you buy the next one, you put it in your own name.
Correct. In my personal name, not Peyton's.
Yes.
We planned to live there for 2 years, single family home, live there for 2 years, renovate as we live there. Yep. We did it. We were just shy of 2 years. We got married while we were there. Just shy of 2 years. We kind of rode that COVID appreciation where lumber was increasing at incredible rate. Yeah. During that time, those 2 properties, I was studying to get my real estate license. Okay. Went ahead and got my license. We bought these 2 properties with a different agent. We were looking at different properties at the time. That agent kind of scared us away from $100,000 profit on a different property. We don't like that. It was one and done. We kind of learned our lesson. Yeah. We know what we're looking for. Right. And I think that's a big issue with a lot of investors. It's hard for them in their head to tell an agent, what they're actually looking for, what they're okay with.
Especially early on when one's, quote unquote, figuring out, navigating.
Yeah.
You get in early on. You haven't quite sharpened that buy box to know exactly what that criteria is.
Yeah, exactly. Mm-hmm. And I understand, that agent didn't want us to get into something and say, okay, we bit off more than we can chew. Completely understand, still friends with them today. Yeah. So we purchased this property. It was on the market for a long time for $195, I think, again in 2019, in the fall of 2019. Mm-hmm. We purchased that for it was listed for $195. We got it under contract for $154. Closing costs again, $3,000 roughly. We went ahead and renovated that property. We put $17,000 into it. Rode that appreciation. We sold for $217,500.
Wow.
We took that profit. Of course, we had to pay a little bit of capital gains, but we were maybe 2 or 3 months shy of 2 years. So it wasn't a lot. We took that $40,000 and it was our down payment to a set of 0 lots. And maybe in your market, you might call them something else. My market, there's 0 lots, side-by-side duplexes, separate tax parcels. We lived in one side and we rented the other one. We used a local bank again, different local bank.
So you roll the money over, you buy this, I'm going to call it a duplex for lack of a better word, a duplex too. It's got 2 sides, you lease one out and you live in the other one.
Yes.
And this 0 lot, is there a homeowners association there?
There is. It's $100 a year.
$100 a year.
Yep.
Which tells me there's some sort of common ground or a sign or not much is the answer.
Yeah.
But the roof, the siding, the everything is on you, the home.
Correct.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So that was new construction. And I always kind of joke around that I had insider trading knowledge on that. I currently hold my license with a developer in the Iowa City market. And at the time, we could see that lumber and labor and everything that goes into a new home was just skyrocketing.
Right.
And we couldn't do anything but pass along the cost to the buyer. It's unfortunate, but it is what it is.
Right.
So we purchased each for $269,900 a side. So we 2 separate loans on that, commercial side and residential side. We went ahead and got an appraisal done. One side appraised at purchase price. The other side appraised $10,000 under. That was a mistake by the bank. Should have been the same appraiser.
Right.
Unfortunately, it is what it is. We didn't want to take the risk of getting it reappraised. We bit the bullet and said, okay, here's an additional $10,000.
Yeah.
Because potentially it could have been more. Maybe it should have been.
Right.
So we purchased those. Immediately, let me backtrack. We went to live in a hotel for 3 months. Peyton and I, 3 months in a hotel.
Because you had sold your single family
Yep.
property. You were buying the new one. It's new construction.
Not done.
Not yet done.
Yeah. So we moved in November of 21. And we move in, we rent this other side. And let me get into a little bit of the financials of that, because that one is fun. We used a local bank. They said, your first investment property with us, we will only require 10% down. So that commercial side, that true investment side, 10% down. Residential side, another 10%-ish. We live in that residential side for a little while. We rent out the other side. That's cash flowing about $900 immediately.
Hi, it's Ava Baukamp, the Investment Relations Manager for Neil's firm, Legacy Impact Investors. I'm inviting you to join us for our next investor workshop, our monthly Legacy briefings. In these tactical Zoom calls, we cover topics and case studies for subjects such as taxes and depreciation, navigating macroeconomic shifts, and evaluating deals as a passive investor. At each virtual workshop, we are joined by an industry guest who covers their topic in 45 minutes or less. No fluff, no pitches, just education and conversation with an expert each month. Every workshop ends with live Q&A from Neil and our guest. All briefings happen on the last Tuesday of the month at 3 p.m. Central. If you can't make it live, recordings are sent out exclusively to those who've registered in advance. To join us on the last Tuesday of this month, visit legacybriefing.com. Go to legacybriefing.com to register. If you're a first-time registrant, I'll send you a free resource at sign up. Head to legacybriefing.com and I'll see you soon.
$900 net a month.
Yeah. More of these duplexes or zero lots are being built down the street.
Yep.
We kept watching and watching and watching. It's 2024 currently, still at the same builder. Those zero lots go for $320,000.
$320,000.
Yeah.
That you paid $269,000
yeah.
for.
Yeah. So we moved out. Again, my husband Peyton is on the loan, on title. I am not.
Okay.
I left during that year. I left my W-2 job, went into real estate, tripled my W-2 income in my first year.
Yeah.
Filed taxes on it, which is smart to do, and had a history of, hey, 6 months into my second year. So as an entrepreneur, you need 2 years of...
You need 2 years of self-employment income in order to qualify for a government loan. Fannie, Freddie, underwritten loan.
Yep. Okay. So 6 months in, we went to a local bank and said, we want to do this again. I'm kind of tired of living in new construction. I want to do something more. I want to keep my schedule just crazy.
Yeah.
We also knew we wanted to start a family at that time. Okay. Wanted to move to the Solon School District. Called up a colleague. I said, hey, you're from Solon. If anything comes up, here's our criteria. Yeah. She had a listing come up and it met our criteria. Yeah. I said, if I can get 100% financing, I'll write you an offer today. Lo and behold, I go to the bank and I say, okay, I'm on title with these zero lots. Right. I went on title, but I am not on the loan. Mm-hmm. So I have history of buying a house, but I have zero debt. Yep. And I am a year and a half into my career and it looks like I'm on pace to do the same amount. So they took it. I got 100% financing and we went and bought a single family home that we're currently in, still renovating it at a little bit slower pace. And I'll kind of get into that a little bit later. Yeah. Bought that. We love it. Rented out the unit that we were living in for a little bit more than what our commercial side is. That cash flows about $1,200 a month currently. The unfortunate side of that is not for me, but for the tenant is he's looking to go month to month. Mm-hmm. And I said, well, that's another maybe $150, based on this property. So probably in July of this year, that will be cash flowing roughly $1,400 per month.
Just the one.
They do all their own maintenance. They do our lawn care, snow removal. They're doing everything. All utilities are in their name. We pay the $100 HOA fee.
Yeah.
Silly. So we're living in the single family home in Solon. I meet up with a young gentleman who was looking to get into real estate investing. And I said, I will help you. I see what you're doing. Someone helped us, or I wish someone would have helped us. We had a little bit of help along the way. It's incredible. Someone lends a helping hand. It's absolutely incredible. And that's something about this business that a lot of people might not realize. People are willing to help.
There's no doubt about it.
You show that you are willing to put in time and effort. It's hard work. As you said on a previous interview, as much as you want it to be passive, it is hands-on. It is a full-time job.
The single family side is real work.
Yeah, absolutely. So we opened up our home. He's moving down from Fort Dodge at the time. Yeah. I said, you can live with me. I had never met him, but 4 weeks prior, we opened up our home. I said, you can live in my basement for a while, get a job, get on your feet, until you find a property. Because he's sending out letters, all the time.
He's working.
He's putting in the hours. He's getting huge, return on his investment with these yellow letters that he's sending out. He gets a call from this owner, a fourplex in North Liberty, still the Iowa City area. Yeah. He's trying to take it down himself. He hasn't purchased a home. He's looking to house hack. We say, hey, here are all of our resources. We're willing to help you. Go get a job. I will call these people. I've kind of made a little bit of a name for myself in the area.
Sure.
I will call them. I'll help you. He gets the job. He's trying to get approved. Didn't get approved. We send him somewhere else. Doesn't get approved. And we say, okay, is it okay if we take this over from you? Mm-hmm. We'll compensate you accordingly. Yeah. And then we said this first duplex that Peyton bought in 2019, that cash flows, we worked it out that he would be buying it and it would be cash flowing immediately for him. Mm-hmm. You just need someone to, open the door for you. Right. So we did that. He was under contract. for our first duplex, because I think it was on a 5-year arm or 7-year arm or something.
Because you finance it with a commercial bank, there's a balloon payment or one or two coming up.
We're under contract. We take down this fourplex, and actually, this is kind of funny. It's not really funny, but I write up the offer, and my husband doesn't look at the offer. We've purchased, at this point enough to, he trusts what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Well, there's a little bit of a discrepancy between the purchase price that he thought we were buying it from. It's $900. It's not a big deal. We find out when we were trying to figure out how much we needed to put down or what's going to be owed at closing, that I wrote up the offer at an additional $900 over what he thought. Anyway, not a big deal, but this fourplex, we think we bought probably upwards of $100,000 under market value, because it was completely off market. I didn't charge any fees. That's why I got my license.
Yep.
Gentleman that lives in our basement backs out of our duplex. That's all right. He moved back to Fort Dodge. I think he's in the Des Moines area now. So now we're at 9 doors or something, not including our single family. We are starting a family. I'm pregnant last year. I have a daughter who's currently 6 months old.
Yeah.
We want to set up our family, well. We're looking to have the goal of generational wealth. Had another colleague represent this investor who's trying to offload his properties. Unfortunately, the property management company that he was using wasn't doing a very good job. So the property was in distress. We go walk it before it hits the market. And I said, because I told this to my colleague, I said, I don't want to write up an offer on this property because I think your investor might not like it. And I'm looking out for my colleague at that point. I truly, it's a numbers game. There's really no emotion to it. It works. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't.
Correct.
I'm looking out for my colleague here. And I said, it's all right. I'll pass. There's a lot of money that needs to go into it. It's under rented and it's sat on the market. Seller comes back and says, hey, I'm willing to play ball with your offer. I think they wanted $185 for this duplex. And I said, I really can only do $180. But I won't take a commission. Currently has a listing agreement signed with the seller. I won't take a commission on it. There is the extra $5,000, but I would really prefer it to be at $180 and not $185. Local bank comes back and says, this is tax assessed at $225. That's all right. You don't need to put anything down. So we go in, we walk into closing. We didn't have to come up with a check, instant equity. At the time, it did not cash flow. We are coming up on a year of that property. We are about $150, $200 of cash flow on that property. That cash flow, because this is for our daughter, that cash flow is being dumped into a 529 education account. I work very closely with our financial advisor.
Yeah.
His name is Alex Sindelar out of the Iowa City area. He's fantastic. Can't say enough good things about him. The reason that I can't say enough good things about him is because you meet a ton of financial advisors and they're pretty aggressive. Well, this financial advisor, immediately when I said I prefer to invest in real estate than what I call paper investments, he was okay with that. He said, yep, I completely understand. You need a diverse portfolio. And I agreed with him. Yeah, I do. So that gets dumped into a 529 account.
That's terrific. So that you're really living with legacy in mind.
Yeah.
Taking the actions that align
with
just that for her.
So starting January 1st, 2024, you can roll your 529 account into a Roth IRA, which is actually really incredible. So if you play this out, you were in this duplex, right? And you add to this 529 account, you can pull $35,000 over the lifetime from it and put it into a Roth. If you allow that to grow based on the last, 30 years or so, or last cycle, If you allow that to grow into this Roth, by the time my daughter is ready to retire, it should equate to roughly $2.5 million, which you don't know by the time she's 65 or whenever she's ready to retire. You don't know how far that's going to go,
Right.
but it's a huge chunk of change that is going to ultimately help her, right? So that's currently where we're at. We have an additional 17 units in negotiations. We'll buy a building a year. There is 2 fourplexes, a 6-plex, and a mixed-use property.
Okay. Package properties that total 17.
Yeah.
Got it.
That acquisition will be roughly $2.3 million.
Okay.
Seller is absolutely terrific. Wants us to, sees himself, wants to help us out.
Yeah.
We have a good relationship with him. So incredible. I guess I would say my mentors, I have various mentors, and they've gotten me to where I am. I call my boss, not really my boss, if I'm an independent contractor. Yeah. Gary Watts in the Iowa City area has an incredible company that he built. He's been in real estate 45 years.
Wow.
Has, development, commercial construction, property management, real estate office is just the whole one-stop shop of real estate. Absolutely incredible. I got a business coach last year, 2 years, a year and a half ago, with Montgomery Companies out of Tiffin. Jay Montgomery is just, I can't say enough good things. Someone to hold me accountable, because we're running at such a fast pace. It's so easy just to say, oh my gosh, I'm so tired. Today is maybe not the day to do it.
They probably challenge you, allow you to level up to a field that maybe you aren't aware that you can play yet. Right. I'm curious, I want to touch on the 17 units because you have done so much with 100% financing with no money down. And I'm sure all our single family friends, we've converted some people out of the Iowa City market because they're going, I can't get that here in a whole bunch of part of this state. So my question is, where will the equity come from for that deal? I'm assuming you're not getting 100% financing on a $2.5 million purchase. All right, fair assumption.
Nope.
Where's the equity coming from?
So our first acquisition is a 4-plex, and that down payment will be leveraging our portfolio. I was just talking to our banker. Yeah. She says, oh, okay, I think you'll probably only need $10,000 for a 4-plex, which is the most ridiculous thing. I say it out loud and I kind of laugh about it because it's okay.
Yeah.
Good God.
Right.
She's saying, hey, you need $10,000. That's it. So my husband and I still work full time. This real estate is our second full-time job. So that will be there. Future down payments or financing is going to be very creative. Owner seller is willing to do creative financing, maybe an owner financing option. Yeah. We have agreed to prices today and over the next 5 years. If they increase in value, I'm paying what we agreed to today. So I could take equity, instant equity in the future, but we're working with him to increase those rents there, increase the value of the property ultimately.
Got it. So it's some sort of unique creative strategy relative to it, but is it a lease with an option? Is it a contract sale?
We haven't actually gotten that far. So we've just agreed to, pricing. Hey, we've agreed to, this is what these are going to be.
Yep.
We're going to buy, in this order, by December 31st of 2025, 2026, 2027. And he's open, he's willing to help us out. And I think that really goes a long way.
No doubt about that. A motivated seller motivated can look a lot of different ways. It's not necessarily just price.
Yeah.
It can look like what you're going down, right? Is they have this need and they have certain things, goals that they need to accomplish.
Yeah.
And they're willing to get creative, they're motivated to get a sale done and work with somebody to get to the finish line.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
You mentioned very early on, one of the things that you are very good at and ultimately led into the bio degree is you're very process driven. Processes are appealing. How has processes and being maybe akin to that served you well in real estate?
Yeah, I will actually just go back to 17 unit acquisition. This has been a 2.5-year ordeal. We have driven by this 6-plex numerous times. Mm-hmm. I wrote letters to the seller and I said, hey, I'm looking to buy your property. I love your 6-plex. Never heard back from him. Went to a colleague and I said, gosh, he's from your town that you live in. Do you know him? Oh, he's my next door neighbor. She's kind of out and about. She sees him and she goes, hey, I know at one time you said if you were looking to sell or if I had maybe someone, willing to buy, I think you should sit down with Allison and Peyton. She got us, into the door.
Yep.
We sat down with him, had dinner with him and his wife, kind of hit it off. He's very open, have kept up with that relationship, starting from nothing.
Yep.
And now we're at a point where I can say, hey, you have an incredible investing strategy and you're willing to help us. How can I facilitate that relationship?
Yeah.
So it starts, by nothing and say, hey, I'm going to do a touch, or some people call it touches or whatever.
Yeah.
I'm going to, contact him, make sure I'm top of mind. I don't want someone to come in and buy it out from under us. I don't want, because this is years in the making.
Correct.
He's open. He told us, right away, I'm not going to, sell it out from under you. I just need to know yes or no if you're in. And of course we said, yes, we're in.
Mm-hmm.
So, in that aspect, it's a process to maintain that relationship. In our rentals or maybe any sort of renovation, so where are we going to make that the most amount of profit? You make money on the acquisition, right?
Yeah.
So it kind of starts from there and, what's this next step and how do we launch ourselves or how are we forward thinking to really go through this with leveraging of what we have.
If you're a house flipper, execute the burst strategy, or do double closings and are in need of money, Little Guy Loans is your go-to lender here in the Des Moines area. Time is money. Loan approvals in 24 hours. Closings in 5 days. Little Guy Loans was founded by Neil Timmins, an investor just like you. Since he has been in over 10,000 homes in Des Moines, there's never an appraisal. Houses, multifamily, and commercial property loans up to $1 million. Check out www.littleguyloans.com.
Yeah, leveraging what you've built for the future and for future acquisitions.
Yeah.
Why Iowa? You could do this anywhere. Why do you choose to do it here?
I don't know if we could do it elsewhere, right? You say that, but
what has you say that? Meaning your skill set, what you have done and built for yourself, meaning internally at a person level is transferable.
Yes. My husband, Peyton, grew up in Spokane, Washington. We landed, in the Iowa City area. Johnson County is really interesting because of the university.
Yes.
There's always turnover.
Yep.
Always turnover. Tiffin and North Liberty are the fastest growing cities in the state.
Wow.
Have been for the last few years. If you take a drive to the Iowa City market, it's new construction as far as the eye can see. Yeah. Like I said, the university is always turning over students. I know for a fact that their goal is retention of those students in the area. The hospitals and clinics, always bringing in different doctors, other professionals. So you're always seeing an increase in value of your assets. It's not guaranteed, right? You can't guarantee that. But on average, you're appreciating about 3% a year. Mm-hmm. We like Iowa. We like the Iowa City area because one of the main reasons is we can hop on a flight from the Cedar Rapids airport, hit a connecting, and we're fine. Cost of living is in Johnson County, relatively speaking to the rest of Iowa, is a little bit more expensive, but based on
across the country,
it is cheap. We obviously like Iowa it's a little bit more landlord friendly, especially compared to like a Washington state.
Right.
Where they sort of always have a moratorium. So we like it in that regard. Obviously, I grew up in Iowa. Yeah. I prefer it.
Yeah.
Small town girl, you can't take that out of me. But yeah, that's why.
Allison, you ready for the final 3 questions?
Only if they're easy.
2 might be, 1 is not. All right, here we go, though.
Okay.
1 piece of advice you would give to your 20-year-old self.
That's so funny. I was thinking about that the other day. 1 piece of advice is to really find mentors. It's great to find mentors. So I try to live the way, if I were 20 years old or if I were in high school, I always take a look at it. Who am I today that would help that 20-year-old? Yeah. I do a ton of work with Kirkwood Community College. Sure. I take high school interns on and I say, you don't have to go to college. You don't have to, strictly be in your field. There's ways to invest and be savvy with your money. That's not necessarily the stock market or other 401k or whatever. So my biggest piece of advice is to really leverage those relationships, really find a mentor that you can really, rely on and find some similarities.
2 books that changed your life.
Obviously, Robert Kiyosaki. I like all of his books, but obviously Rich Dad, Poor Dad, it's kind of a boring answer. I'm sorry. But that really got us thinking.
Yeah.
Hey, the way that you're going doesn't necessarily need to be the way. The other book, too, I really like Financial Freedom. Again, it kind of touches on the legacy building and not having to be tied down to your desk. I'm not made for a W-2 job.
Mm-hmm.
I found that out pretty quickly. Yeah. So that really, really opened my eyes. Hey, it's okay just to kind of go off on your own, but make sure you have a plan.
Yeah. If you were cast away on an island for a year, you can only get 3 pieces of data each month to know how your business is doing.
3 pieces.
Yeah. What 3 things must you know every month?
Every month, 3 pieces. I want to know my net income on a property. I want to know market appreciation. I'm really interested in what the surrounding units are doing, especially, like I said, that zero lot that are, now selling for $320,000. Right. I want to know what those are doing in the back of my head, how much kind of equity I have in those. I also want to know who is other property owners that are near me, because at some point they want to retire. They want to be done. It's a lot of work. Unfortunately, some of their kids, they see that and they don't want that.
Right.
Absolutely don't want that, which I can understand. So at the very least, I would like to know that so I can always, be on the lookout and say, okay, hey, I'm willing to work with you. I'm willing to sit here. I'm willing to sit here for years on end until you're ready to go.
We could talk all day. This has been a wonderful conversation. And I asked you lots of questions. What's one question I did not ask, but I should have asked?
Gosh, I covered a lot of ground.
You did. Wonderful conversation.
One question, I would say I kind of touched on it. I brought it up on multiple times, but I do wish that you would have asked, how much time is put into these, because
you alluded to it. It is not passive. So let's go down that path. Is that we've had this conversation, but this has required years of work and thousands of hours of work to be able to get to that. So talk a little about that at a business level, from an input standpoint. What's it take? And then I'm curious to take it one step further at a personal level. What's the cost of that input?
Looking at it as a business, I am dealing with tenant requests, maintenance requests, following up with, did you pay rent? How are we going to get rent this month? Am I going to have to file eviction? I would say I personally try to designate 1 day a week to strictly focus on our rental properties. That, quite frankly, is that enough? I don't think so.
Okay.
I don't have the time to spare, though. So it's kind of nights and weekends, and it's a collaboration between my husband and I. We're in it together. I would say when we first started, I thought he was crazy. Didn't want to do it. Okay. Now we're 5 years down the road, and are we both crazy? You kind of think about it.
Yeah.
On a personal level, it's stressful. I will tell you, I had a tenant, and I made this mistake. I had a tenant who said, will you take a chance on me? And how do you answer that when they're telling it to your face? It's much easier to do it via email or by phone. But if they're asking you to your face, would you take a chance on me? You're like, oh my gosh, I'm willing to try. Here are my stipulations. You have to have rent on time. XYZ, we're pretty strict on it. I took a chance, one chance. He kind of blew it.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, he had a friend come over who was supposed to be on house arrest. Shot off a gun. The property was in close proximity to a school. School got put on lockdown.
Oh, my heaven.
And I had just had a baby, emergency C-section 3 weeks prior. And we had to go deal with that. And I thought I was going to lose my mind. Yep. I had a colicky baby on top of it. I thought I lost my identity. I was going at 100 miles an hour and all of a sudden was 0. Don't get me wrong. I absolutely love my daughter. Yeah. She was absolutely colicky as crazy. Yeah. She's crying 12 hours a day. We had no idea what to do. First child. At this point, I'm giving up my entire career. I've worked so hard to get to this point. And I felt like I was just shoved in the back corner, and I was staring at my white walls in my house, and there's a wall that's torn down. I'm staring at it. I'm listening to a baby cry for 12 hours. And I get this call from the Iowa City Police Department. And I file eviction, and they post on his door. And he texts me and he said, "Hey, I have this on my door. I didn't do anything wrong." And I said, "Okay." And I wasn't really responding back, courtesy of my lawyer. And all of a sudden he says, "Is this a joke? Are you pulling a prank on me?" And it's an official document from a local lawyer's office. And this gentleman thinks I'm pulling a prank on him. And once everything kind of went through, I said, "Look, I don't want to file eviction just as much as you don't want me to file eviction. I will give you time to get out. I will set it up. I don't have to move forward with this eviction if you move out."
Right.
So he did. He ended up finally moving out. And of course, the neighbors my contact information is public, and they're contacting me. Sure. And of course, completely understand. But it is not a walk in the park. Personally, it's stressful. Definitely stressful.
It's worth it at the end of the day.
Yeah, it is.
It does take the right personality, and you got to have the right DNA. And I love early on in your career, on the 9 to 5 side of things, you quickly identified, I'm just not cut this way. I'm not built this way.
Yeah.
And made that pivot to go on, and in the middle of building something. It's going to be fun to stay connected and circle back, because it's going to be fun to see how
definitely
this thing continues. For audience's sake, for people who want to find you, they want to follow you, they want to connect with you, where can they go? What should they do?
Yeah, I'm on Facebook. I have a public page for my real estate sales. LinkedIn is probably the better way to get a hold of me. Also a little bit on Instagram, but mostly Facebook and LinkedIn under Allison Mackin. I think my Facebook page more is Allison Mackin Real Estate. And I also have a website. It's AllisonMackin.com. Certainly can find me there and inquire and get a hold of me.
Links below in the show notes, everybody. Allison, thanks for your time.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for listening. If you're enjoying the show, may I ask a favor of you? Naturally, subscribe so you never miss an episode. But would you rate and leave an honest written review on Apple Podcasts? It does a lot for us here at the show, and I appreciate reading your thoughts. Great guests make for a great show. If you know of another Iowan who would be a great guest, or you yourself have interest in being a guest, well, get on our radar. Visit Investing in Iowa to fill out an application or recommend a guest. And if you want to connect with me one-on-one, go to LegacyImpactInvestors.com. Click on the Invest With Us button in the top right corner, and there you can pick a time for the two of us to get on the calendar and connect. Until next time, keep investing in Iowa.